Hello, everybody. Thank you, C webinar. We've been looking at the UK Africa Investment Summit and then all of the subsequent events that happened around it or connected to it. So we had people who attended the UK Africa Summit itself in the form of our Executive Director, Mr. Onikachi Wambu. Afford also was part of the organising of the Sierra Leone Investment Summit. And so we also talked about the key highlights from there. And we then went on to look at the perspective of other side events that happened linked with the UK Africa Summit. So some looked at women, some looked at SMEs, the impact of Brexit, and Ndidi Onjoku, who's the Director of Markets for Development, she talked about a bit about that. So you'll also be able to find out a bit more about that. And then also the Ghana Investment Summit. The video will be available for that soon, and that was with Michael Emanning and Mamiya Bonsu. Michael was in the great position of hosting it, and Mamiya always is great in really digging deep on what some of the key issues we should be thinking about are. So their conversation was extremely interesting. And today we're taking a slightly different look at how some of the governments utilize this time, this period, to really make sure that they were able to maximize what they wanted to get out of the sessions, what they wanted to get out of this UK-Africa investment relationship, really, because there was a series of relationships were hoped to come out of the summit. And with figures reaching millions of in terms of deals being done, it's really interesting to see how and who benefited and in what ways was the focus. So I'm joined today by Madame Christelle Kupa of Uhusiano Capital. And so I'm going to begin, Christelle, by asking you a bit about your company and what you do, and particularly your interest in investment in Africa.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. And thank you very much for having me today. Pleasure to be part of this, and yeah, and sharing a little bit of the experience that we've had over the past few weeks with, as a result of the UK and Africa Summit. So if I can start first with Uhusiano Capital. We've been going for 2.5 years now, and the idea is to be really the bridge of European investors and projects and companies based in and around Africa. We don't have any country specific. We really go for the project, and we also do tend to take an angle of impact investment, as we want to participate into the development of the continent worldwide. We do concentrate on sub-Saharan Africa, but obviously when and if we have a project, X that region, we will be also happy to look at it. So what we do, we really help to match make, the need of project on the ground with the capital that is available in Europe. A lot of time, and going around investors, they here in Europe, they'd like to participate, they'd like to start investing in Africa, but sometimes ticket size are too big or too small, so it's a bit difficult for them to understand how to penetrate this market within this impact investment angle. And this is something that Uhusiano Capital is able to facilitate. So that's essentially what we do, broadly speaking, at Uhusiano Capital.
So this was actually extremely relevant to your whole area of interest. So what have been some of your hopes? I know, and we'll go on to that in the end, due to your focus and work in assisting DRC, you didn't make it to the summit itself. But when you heard the summit was happening, what were some of your hopes of what would come from this initiative?
Really, the hope was to understand and strengthening the relationship between the UK and the DRC. UK and DRC have got a long-standing relationship, but it was just to make it a little bit more official and having some deals and really strengthening the political sphere, but also the business, and most importantly the business sphere, making sure that there will be very good liaison between the two countries for the DRC and also amongst the others. So that was really the main goal, and understanding the need of both parties, coming from I guess from both, being a diasporan, I look, I look after the interests of both continents really, and that's our strength, being in the middle. Yes.
Okay, so just to pull a little bit from DRC's perspective, were there any key things that they'd hope to get out of this investment summit period?
Yes, really. The key element that they wanted was really to strengthening the relationship, to meet new investors, but also the potential for companies on the ground to be exposed to the UK investment sphere, and understanding what would be the need and how to really make this happen, as some of our countries back home might be sometimes a bit daunting, just because people don't know how to go about it. So this was the first of its kind, to be able to showcase different companies who wanted to implement themselves in Africa. So yes.
Can you tell us a bit about the companies that came? So they came with companies from the continent, and what kind of focus they have.
So for sure, I know that because it's also a public space. The solar project called they're already actually implemented in the DRC, but they wanted to make a bigger impact. It's a solar company, and they at the UK summit signed a further MOU with the presidents to announce that there will be a further 10 million investment in the country. So those kind of companies and relationship, we want them to strengthen. We really want them to, to be a showcase for other companies also to come in the DRC and not be scared of whatever political and news can, be portrayed in the country. There are businesses who are doing extremely well in the country, and we just encourage them to come even more.
Okay, and you touched on a bridge, and this is something. Can you tell us a bit about your role? I know that yourself and another diasporan plays quite a key part in helping to assist the government. So can you tell us a bit about how the government reached out to you, and then your own perspective of how diaspora can have a bigger role?
Sure. So the basically, because I'm taking the angle of impact investment, my Uhusiano Capital, my strength is really to be the bridge for good capital to be invested. So patient capital that want to participate into building up, and also looking at social businesses also in the DRC. So therefore, I've been called by the First Lady Cabinet and Foundation to really help and organize some interesting bilateral meetings for the foundation to thrive even more within the Congo, but also explaining to the wider audience in Europe and in the UK especially, that DRC is open for business, is open for any regular business, but also for impact investment business. They find me as a diasporan, Congolese diasporan, doing what I do. Uhusiano Capital did not until then had the opportunity to do any businesses yet in the DRC, and through this really strong connection and the investors and people business connection that we have here on the ground, we've been able to, myself and another colleague called Guy Kioni, we've been put together as a team to really promote and organize the first official visit for the First Lady here in the UK. So we've been really pleased that we've been able to find different type of stakeholders, investors, but also looking at her foundation pillars, and really trying to matchmake with interest here in the UK.
So do you think this is something that perhaps other African countries could look at doing, really connecting in this constructive way with their diaspora?
Oh yes, for sure. I would say the strength that we have as diasporan is that we are, by essence, understanding both worlds. So we understand the need of country of origin, and then we also are based here. So we do have a very good understanding of how things work here in Europe. So we are the link and we are the bridge.
Do you think that other countries could benefit from tapping into their diaspora, working with their diaspora, as DRC did with yourselves?
Oh yes, I will say that this is, I personally think that it's a great way to really kind of use people that are based actually here on the ground, understanding also businesses and business culture that has been done here, but really are very bringing something back also to the UK, as we know how our countries and our respective countries, what the needs are, and how to really put it in a way that is well received as well here in the UK. So I would say that it is probably best to have a diasporan rather than having a straight outside consultant to come and do this, because we really understand there's a very strong culturally that needs to be also put within every conversation that we have. And also for our discussion, I would say the conversation were just more open, honest, and we could translate this really well with us, bilateral meetings and other stakeholders that participate into this day that we organize in collaboration with my colleague.
Fantastic.
And we are both diasporan, so both born in Europe from DRC origin, and we live in Belgium and London respectively. So
you bring all of that knowledge to the work that you're able to do. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
I'm gonna ask, for those who want to invest in DRC, be they diaspora or other, what are some of the key areas that they can start thinking about in directing their energies towards?
So the DRC is a very massive country, so really you can think of any topics and any segment of the market. The one that we have focused are the ones that are kind of in collaboration with the foundation. So anything to do with health, because the foundation pillars lies onto 4 very important topics. So health is one of them. Education is also very important, and I would say women empowerment in general is the topic also of the foundation. So we took those topics, translate them into what we could bring to the DRC, and what the DRC could bring also to various stakeholders here in the UK. And that's how we managed to have a good full day of very interesting meetings.
Fantastic. And then, is there anything that you felt came out of the period that you would like to share with those listening, particularly those who are thinking about wanting to invest in DRC? Is there any advice you might give for helping people to think about how they can start to plan their investment programs?
Yeah, sure. I would say that first,
Go.
Sure. So really, the advice that I will first say to anyone will be to make your own research. So that's the first thing, because it's very important for you to feel comfortable in in the type of project you'd like to invest. So I would say to come first to your own you know, preliminary due diligence. But then also I would say that myself, my colleague Guy, you know, and we're not exclusive, of course, in the DRC, but we also have very good access. It's very important to always speak to the decision makers in the business, but also politically, depending on the type of business you'd like to invest. So do not hesitate if you want to run past an idea or like to reach out to a certain level of ministerial, but also presidential, as this is something that we clearly have as a link. It's very important to speak to the right people and the right individual. And I would say that this probably applies to any countries. It's just the entry point, it is very important. So make sure that you have the right entry point for your businesses and your endeavor in various countries.
Thank you so much, Christelle, for being with us today and sharing the insights you have. So people, we will share Christelle's contact details for you to follow up with her if you'd like to have more of conversation and find out a bit more about how Christelle. This will be available on our Facebook Live, as are the other interviews. So please do scroll back through the full timeline and catch up where you might have missed some of these conversations. They're very important, and there are ways that Diaspora can be involved as ambassadors in the same way as Christelle, as investors, as bridge builders. And so it's very important to really expand your ideas of how you can really engage and helping both the country and yourself to take part in the investment possibilities available on the continent. Thank you so much again, Christelle.
Thank you.
And everybody have a very good, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank